Morning, Deborah.
Good morning. I've really been enjoying listening to your very clear description of how you're taking your organization forward, and I've been literally impressed. Not impressed as in, oh, I didn't think you could do it. Impressed as in appreciation of you performing in an agile way. You are implementing things, and it's a real pleasure to listen to all of this. So yes, so that's basically what I've been receptive, and I'm listening to you.
That's a better way
Right.
of saying loitering. So yeah, thank you, Deborah.
Yes.
Loitering isn't perhaps the right word.
Yeah.
How has it been? How's the week been so far for you guys in England?
Well, I mean, for myself, I have been involved with a number of projects outside of the university, which are going well. So I've been involved with a PR project with a client that I have, and they seem to be getting more visibility. So that's been going well, as well as the wrapping up of marking. That's been a real pleasure. So yeah, I've been doing both, as well as in my personal life, been having lots of fun in the garden.
Oh wow!
So I have planted pumpkin, and I have planted courgettes.
Oh wow! Is that
Yeah.
zucchini?
Pardon?
Zucchinis, right?
Zucchini.
Yeah, zucchini. Yeah. And and beetroot I've planted. So I've been watching them, and it's been a real pleasure. So I like to keep work-life balance, because obviously still, even though lockdown is slowly being released, I'm still quite happy being at home. So that's I get the chance to go into the garden. I was really inspired with you, Fidel. Yeah, I was really inspired with you, Fidel. So do you know your whole supply chain, and you've been sharing those visuals with us. I haven't shared the visuals with anyone else, but I've described your journey with lots of people here in the UK, and they're absolutely fascinated by the solutions that you've been putting in place. So, do you know, was it last week or the week before, you talked about the problems in the marketplace, that 40% of food goes wasted because there's insufficient weighing machines, etc. And I was absolutely impressed with the solutions that you have been putting in. So I've been sharing those kind of headlines with people here in the UK, and they have been riveted with interest with how you're making a difference. So just to let you know that your stories are being shared around.
I'm really humbled. I mean, I would like also to invite you on June 30th. We will be disclosing we'll be presenting the results of a survey we've conducted across 300 customers we've had during the COVID. We've asked them, what was your online grocery shopping experience like before COVID? And what was it like during COVID? And what are you planning to do after COVID? So it'll be interesting for you guys to see that. And I will be producing an investor deck, so you can circulate it. And we never know. And I'm open for opportunities, of course.
So are you going to be having an online discussion with it?
Yes.
Because it sounds to me like
Oh,
absolutely. I mean, I would be delighted to come along, and I may even like to invite a couple of other people who I know who are very interested in the work that you're doing. When I speak to people in the UK, you know, some of them even have ideas of, oh, could we invest in him, etc. And I say, well,
Wow.
I slow down. I said, I mean, he hasn't talked about that yet, but you know, so I do think that you sharing like this brings on a community of people who may have who may even like to invest. So yeah, I would be delighted to come along.
I keep on telling people, this is not my business. I just happen to be audacious enough to start it, to structure
Yes.
some stuff, and put together a team that is eager to tackle the problems. But I would like everyone to join in, and everyone in my company, my collaborators, they know they own the company. They don't work. We've been working for the last 2 years without getting in pay. I give them a stipend, and for myself, I just do some shopping on my. That's the only benefit I get. I got to shop for my family. That's the only benefit. But I wanted to make sure that whoever is putting their finger in the machine, they know they're not going to be. I mean, we are looking at a 1 trillion industry in the next 30 years. Apart from the ammunition, apart from weapons, it's the only industry that's going to grow to that extent. We have 2.5 billion of Africans. Even if we took like on average $1 per day, it's 2.5 billion a day. Times the 360 thing, it's 900 billion a year. That's, I mean, very few people are looking at how to take a share. Not just to take a share, but to serve those people. Because there'll be so many changes if we change just the food equation. And we should be the one doing it. We should not
absolutely. And
send
I
it
would
to the Chinese.
Absolutely. I mean, I mean, I'm totally behind you with that. And again, I really, you know, when you do the presentation, I would really love you to really unpick the problem even more and then tell us what the solution is. Because that storytelling, I think, is what's going to really help to take you to another level.
It's very, to lead on from what Deborah says, the ability to story tell your way through data to really get people engaged in those findings. You know, the discussions that you're having now, so that how you narrate the story that comes out of the data, because otherwise data can seem quite dry. Yeah, dry. But data is like the skeleton. It's like the bones. You have to put around those bones
the words.
The words. Absolutely
story,
right. Yeah, the story.
But as a story, because if you don't put in the do you know the word jeopardy?
Jeopardize, yes, I know it.
If you don't put in jeopardy, the stakes, etc., then the story it becomes just dry information. So
exactly.
And I'm so glad that Daryl has brought your attention to that. So for your presentation of this 300 questionnaire, 300 people questionnaire, please build in jeopardy, build in as much jeopardy as possible. It will make it very engaging. People will be compelled to listen. And clearly you have got, I mean, the jeopardy is there, but please avoid trying to sound dry and just factual. Please give us the emotional stories, the jeopardy, the impact that it has on real people's lives, real people's hearts, real people's eyes. Because if you simply just put numbers, simply just report numbers, it will just be another lovely presentation. It's like, oh, okay, that's nice. But if you build in all the jeopardy, all the stakes, you know, what would happen if you hadn't taken this forward? Who would suffer? And now who has got a positive experience? All these things that you share with us, please add that into your story.
I would like to have like one day with you before I turn.
Yeah,
turn
I
up
mean,
to.
I would be quite happy to share a framework with you.
So, well, I think you develop it. It's your story, Fidens, and then you articulate it, and then we're happy to look at it. But you have to, it has to be driven by you. Yeah.
Nice, of course.
Yeah.
I'll be glad to have your feedback on that.
But I noticed, that we're being. I noticed that we're joined by Christelle. Good morning, Christelle. Good morning. She was there. She was there. She is there. And Pacific, who's there. Look, I can see him in his. He's got a bookshelf behind him. He looks like he's on CNN. Nice to see you, Pacific. Coming back to your point, Fidens, I think if you present it, and then we can, if we can listen in on the 13th, we can then, afterwards give you some thoughts and insights and stuff. Jeopardy is very important to show people, as Deborah said, what happens if, when, how, and also to paint the positive picture coming out of COVID, what you've learned and what you're taking forwards and what the opportunities are.
Good morning, Pacific. Good morning. I can see you with your the files behind you. Is that the office that I met you in Kigali? I can't hear you, Pacific.
Can't hear you.
Oh, still can't hear you. I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear you, Pacific.
Can't hear you. No.
No, we can't hear you.
No, he can't hear us.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I was going to ask you, is that the office that we joined you in Kigali?
Yes, you're right. You're right. The same office.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Last time, so
yeah.
I'm now in my office, so yeah.
Back in the office. Great.
Yeah.
And Wilson, I see you've just joined us, I think.
Good morning, Wilson. Wilson? Maybe he can't hear. Wilson?
Wilson, good morning.
He can't hear us.
Oh, okay.
May have to give him type a message to him.
Okay, right.
And Christelle, we're not ignoring you, so good morning too.
Good morning, everyone.
Do you know when you speak, Christelle, I can hear this smile in your voice.
I'm always smiling.
Yeah! Because in your photograph, you're smiling, and I'm like, this is a smiling woman. It's so lovely.
Thank you.
It's such a lovely, honestly, that quality. I mean, Fidens is smiling too. Do you know his photograph? I love that photograph.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. But you, Christelle, you're exuding all this entrepreneurial confidence.
I'm trying to be like you. You are always smiling too. Big laugh, not only smiling.
Wonderful.
Christelle, you were dancing this morning at 8:51 in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, I was excited.
Wow.
Oh, great.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
So what's been going on in your week? What have you been doing this week?
We're working on a new collection. So we try to create some products that people are absolutely buying because people have financial crisis with the pandemic, but there are some products that is a must buy. So we are working on that collection and we are launching it next week. Mostly baby cribs, accessories, like people are giving birth, people are getting pregnant, they will absolutely need it. And some casual kids clothes, some casual clothes for kids too. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so you mentioned creams. So you sell creams as well? Creams?
No, cribs. Like
a crib. Okay.
Yeah, like bumpers.
Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
So how are you launching it next week? What are you doing? How's this happening?
We are knitting. We are sewing. So
sewing,
sewing and knitting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how are you telling the world about your new products next week?
Yeah, we are just going to launch it on the web. I'm also starting my website next week, so it's it will mostly be digital marketing, because we can showcase like do a fashion show. That's not possible, but I'll try my best to do it on social media.
Yeah.
So you're doing a fashion show online?
That'd be great.
Not really.
Why?
On TikTok, you could do a fashion show on TikTok
Yeah.
live.
That's more of what I'm thinking about. Okay. How I can use social media to promote my new collection.
Right. So you have ideas.
Yeah, I have ideas. Yeah, I'm trying to put them together and like talking to some people who have very strong social media accounts, so that they can help me.
Okay.
Does
the minister have children?
Yeah. She has, but I have no. I don't have the info. She has two little girls, but I don't know their age. So I'm trying to ask around if I can get some info about them, so that I can prepare my package, like we talked with Deborah.
Yeah, and that actually is something that I mean, we had been talking about, Christelle and myself, that if anyone else knows the age of Paula's children, that would be really useful, because Christelle would like to give them something as well. So it's a family gift. So if anyone knows, Wilson, Pasafik, Fidenz.
Does it have to be a surprise? Because I have a friend who's a friend of the minister, but she told me she cannot just give out that info without asking the minister first. So I'm thinking if I should try the angle of a surprise, or if I should just like if she should know about it, because if she knows about it, I can get the info easily.
I mean, I think it's okay to let them know that something is being prepared, particularly because obviously she has to remain safe, and that's the reason why.
Exactly.
Because you could imagine the military going through your gift and pulling it apart. They would. So it's actually okay to do that. I think just the thought alone is going to make her smile. We do need to follow protocol.
Can you, Deborah, follow up with the minister, perhaps?
Yes, I will do. Yeah. So I'll do it that way. I will do it so her friend doesn't have to ask. So I will do that, Christelle. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. That will really help.
And I think Deborah's right. Just the mere fact that she will be smiling, the fact that she may well receive something from you is by itself nice to hear about. So
okay.
I think if Deborah can do that, that'll be really nice.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I'll do that. And I mean, it's just occurred to me, maybe in the Rwandan colours, the flag or something. I don't know.
It is. I have one item which will be culture inspired, But for the kids, our flag is it's not it's
Why
not.
don't you? It's really, I think it'd be really nice just to present a really nice your new collection. You know, even if they're samples of your collection and what you do, and you present it to her. If we can get it to her with some love and care, so she opens it up and she can see what your new collection is. And maybe, I mean, also thinking aloud, if there are certain parts of the media in Rwanda who look at fashion, children's fashion, you maybe want to find a way. I mean, Deborah's more adept at this than me, so Deborah will tell me if I'm talking rubbish, please. But I would have thought maybe trying to get a nice pack to them about what you're doing, and so on, like a media pack, but a collection, a small collection of samples.
I'm trying to talk to some famous moms. Like moms who have a very strong platforms, social media platforms. If I get like 2 or 3, that will be a good start.
Absolutely. I'm curious, why is it that well, let me phrase it differently. How long are you giving yourself to launch it?
I have this week to finish the products, but within 3 weeks maximum.
Okay, because it does seem that you're pushing yourself just to launch it in 1 week. It seems that there's other things that you have to pull together and then schedule a date. I mean, maybe the 20th of June or something, but in a week's time does seem rather ambitious.
In a week's time is to finish up with the products, be done, and then start with the branding part.
Right. In terms of where you are on the equator, this is just me and clarify for me. June the 20th for us is the summer solstice, and then after that we are formally in our summer. What season would you be in?
Summer too. We are in the hot season.
Okay. Oh, right. So then this then will be your summer collection then.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And I tried to. We tried to. Our creative orientation were towards light clothes. So there is a big part of fabric instead of the crochet part, because the crochet part is the yarn part is hot.
Right.
So
okay.
It's just some touches, like some small parts, but mostly it's fabric.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. So you're launching your you're launching your summer 2020.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So who prepares all of your imagery, and who prepares all your materials?
I have a sister who's a graduate in digital marketing.
Oh,
so she helps me out. She's a graduate from Duke, so she helps me out.
Oh my gosh! Oh, fantastic!
Is she good? We may want to talk to her.
Yeah, is she any good?
Together.
Is she any good? We may want to talk to her.
Is your sister any good?
She's good, but not in fashion. So we are trying.
In media, in social media and digital. Is she good in digital marketing?
Yeah, she's good in digital marketing, but fashion is not really her area.
No.
But we are trying to work on it.
Okay. Is it important to you that you launch this collection by the end of this month?
Yes.
What's the current state of play regarding Muganga this month? I guess there was going to be an Muganga again.
No. Well, okay. Muganga, because it's you can't really do social distancing. Okay, I don't think it will happen.
No.
Yeah.
No.
They haven't said anything about it yet, but I don't think it will happen.
Yeah.
Because even meetings are not allowed nowadays, so
there's no
I don't think we can have Muganga.
There's no car-free days. There's no Mugandas at the moment.
No.
Okay.
No gatherings.
No gatherings offline. No physical gatherings.
Yeah, no physical gatherings.
You can have physical you can have online gatherings though.
Yes.
Ah, okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And are there any public holidays coming up as well? I'm just curious. I'm looking on Google. Are there any public holidays coming up?
Yeah, on the 1st and the 4th July.
Yeah, of course.
We have Independence Day and Liberation Day.
Independence Day, of course, and Liberation Day.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Good.
Wilson, are you there? So nice to see you, hear you. Wilson, is he there? He was there.
No.
He's gone.
His mic is off, but he's not responding.
David, are you there?
David? Oh, David.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
How are you? Hi.
Yes, it's Deborah. Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you doing?
Very good. Very good.
Where are you?
Still holding out.
Still holding out.
Yeah, still holding out. We're not giving up.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
How's your week gone?
Pretty well. Things are going back in places now, so we're trying to do our very best. And yeah, and I was waiting for this session today, and for Professor Johann Füller.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, he should be with us at 11 o'clock your time. I know him quite well. He's very he's, as I said, I think last week, if those that were here, he has been to Rwanda before.
He has been here.
Yeah, so let me recount the story about how I know Johann Füller. Is that when I was traveling on a plane from Brussels to Kigali last June, I think, July, I sat down and this very tall man was sitting down next to me, and he got out the book that the minister talked about a few weeks ago, this one, The Prosperity Paradox. And I thought that was interesting. Why is he looking at a book about innovation in developing nations? And then we got talking, and he said he was on his way to Kigali for the first time to deliver a workshop. So that's how we met, and we've been in touch ever since, really. And I spent a week with him. We went to Zipline, which was amazing, and we went to a few other organizations as well, and had pizza at Pili Pili. So yeah, it was a great week to spend with him. So it was when we thought about developing this program, he seemed the obvious person to talk to regarding innovation in the digital era. And what I love about Johann is not only is he an academic, but he is also managing founder, and CEO of a product innovation consultancy in Munich. So he doesn't just do the research, he's also consulting very large organizations like BMW and Porsche and big electrical companies in how to innovate their products and services. So we're looking forward to him joining us this morning.
David?
Yes,
David?
Yes, please.
What do you hope to gain from today? Because you said you're looking forward to him. So what is it that you are looking for from the professor?
Professor. So the headline today was product and service innovation. So I'm really looking at the ways that we can better really improve the product or make better services, and how we can be really innovative, not just the old way, but looking for ways that the things that we can really make good products and also deliver very good services. And how to be innovative and creative as well, digitally.
Right. So let me ask you, what specific problem are you currently seeking to resolve? What specific thing that you're currently wanting to find an answer to?
Yeah, first thing is how, like, I find it's a bit hard to do a business and also do product or provide services digitally. So without moving around, just doing it visually, like the way we are just talking, you sell your product and sell. Like, I really want to know, like, how is it efficient for people to really trust what you do and the service that you're really kind of offering. So, like, I really want to hear, like, really strategies.
So you're talking about how people to trust you?
Yes. How to trust me, how to trust my product, and how.
So repeat that again. So I'm trying to get clarity about your precise problem that you're seeking to resolve.
So, like, how to get people trusting your product and services, not like the way we do it every day. Like, we have to meet a person. Like, we can do it digitally, like visually, without meeting a person. Just meeting on a different platform and sell your product and services, so they can really get to know you better and your services, so they can get interested about your product.
Okay. That's interesting. That's an interesting question. So, what is your current experience then? What are you finding? How are you finding people responding to you?
If I can say it, now here in Rwanda, so things have not gone into a well path. So, like, people, to get to know you well or to get to do business with you, most of the time they really want to know you. They really want to see you. They really want to see how you say, how you talk, like seeing you physically more than just telling them visually.
Okay. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I think if you keep on having that very clear in your mind, then that is the specific question then to ask Johann Füller. I'm sure he's got lots of very useful things. So keep that in mind. So essentially, people don't trust you if you're using technology. They want to see, they want to touch and feel, well, not touch and feel you, I mean, hello, but they want to touch and feel you.
They might do.
They might do. They want to touch and feel you.
That might be the clincher.
To touch and feel you. You're saying, I'm only selling technology, stop.
So it's a hard way to go, and we still have a long way to go. I mean,
but let me ask you, so what are the reasons that people give you for not trusting you not trusting? What are the reasons?
I think the first reason is that they've never done that before, so they're still in the old era. So they still think that things should still go the old way. So they have to see you, they have to, feel you, touch you. I don't know, but they haven't. It's a matter of trusting and saying that things really have changed in our normal lives, so that you can do business with somebody without being in contact with them or seeing them.
How can you overcome that?
I mean, so it's a debate.
Is it all done by email, or do you meet with them online? I mean, how do they see you?
Some of them, I meet them online, and it starts with email, but it end up seeing them. So you have never been I've never worked with anybody just for email only. So we start with email, then we plan for a meeting.
So I'm going to ask you, and this is a straight question. In your mind, what is the benefit to them for using technology?
So it's faster, and like when you're seeking for a service or product, you don't meet a person. If you know the product is really well and you know the person is really trusty, so it's a kind of it makes the services, even the whole thing faster than ever, because you get to do whatever you have to do with that person, and if it's about the services, they provide the services. If you pay the money after you receive your services, you just pay it, so you don't have to meet. So imagine you have to meet the person, you have also to talk about things and your product, people you have worked with, and then after that, the second phase is doing the services. So it takes a lot of time. Then you can even do it with just email and visually, like the way we are doing it right now.
That's really interesting. Thank you. And I hope you've written that down, because you seem to be very clear about the technical benefits. What are the emotional benefits then for using technology?
Is it for me or for everyone here?
I'm asking this because I think you're talking about the fact that people aren't trusting, and that's an emotional question. So maybe you might want to explore how do they benefit, because you're describing the technical things, things can move faster, etc., etc. How does moving faster benefit them emotionally, or how does things moving faster benefit them? Do you know? And what have you found?
Yeah, I find those that get along with having the business
could you
faster.
speak up, please? Because I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, maybe it's my technology. I can't hear you.
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, I was saying those that really have done that before and get the services faster, they get more. They're more satisfied with their services than those that still have to wait for meetings to go on and wait for you to meet up. So they get their service done, you get your service done, and everybody's happy on both sides. So I guess
right. So
I
it
don't know
seems
if it's kindly goes with the emotional feelings. You just see it.
I suppose what I'm saying is, emotionally, there's some sort of risk. There's a risk that they are not willing to take yet. And I'm curious if you could find out some more about what is the risk that they think that they are taking. Find out some more from them, like, what is the risk? Uncover that some more. I mean, you might know some of the risks because they may be explaining this to you. What is the risk that they think that they're taking?
So the risk that I think they're taking, maybe the only risk I see, or maybe what I've just heard so far, is that it's really
when they're talking to you. I mean, you don't see the risk, but they see a risk. So maybe you need to ask them, what is the risk that they are seeing, and then listen to, like, what is the risk that they're seeing or experiencing.
True, yeah. So what I have so far heard from a few of them is that they are just afraid they might end up with a bad person or with the wrong product or with the wrong services. So they're just afraid of trusting and doing the things for the very first time. But this is a very good thing. Make sure I will do a survey on that. Make sure that I get really feedback from all those.
Well, I think it's really good. You seem to be clearer and clearer. So they think that they're not going to get the chance to return something, etc., etc. So it seems to me that what you do in your communications is that you talk about these issues before, so you answer their you answer their objection, and then ask, and then see what they say, because it is necessary for you to listen very closely to the risk that they are imagining in their minds. So you know that there isn't a risk, but until you show them, say, look, this is how we take the risk away. You can get money back, or you can look at this, or, whatever ways that you can show them that the thing that they're most worried about, that you answer that. And if you prepare a presentation beforehand that answers that, then I would be interested to see what sorts of results you get. What does that sound like to you?
Yeah, sure. That's a really great thing, because first thing is, it's always better to know where is the gap, and how do you come up with better solution to that. So I guess that's one of the things that I'll really do going forward.
Yeah, I mean, good. Just keep asking them really specifically. When someone says no, you're not going to be rude, but you can say, I really am here to help you, and I'd like to find out what is the risk that you can see, and ask them if they would be willing to really point out what the risks are that they can see. And then obviously, I mean, I can hear that you're someone who is receptive and you're open to listen to them. Write them down literally how they say it, and then come back with a response. I mean, you might even tweak the way that you deliver the technology in a way that answers each one of those objections. And I'm sure Dr. Johann Füller will give you even more examples of how you can continue to listen to them. So that's a really exciting question that you're asking, and I think it provides Wilson, Christelle, Fidens, all of us here, Daryl, myself, Natida, hi Natida. It provides us all with opportunities to know how to listen even more clearly to the objections that our customers have, because once we can resolve those objections, or identify those objections and then answer it, then we're more likely to have them, raving about us. So yeah, good.
I think there's also, if I can just carry on from what Deborah said, because you are the only person here that's really working 100% in a business-to-business environment. And so the decision-making process that goes through the mindset of a business buying from a business product is obviously very different from a consumer buying a product. And so there is much more jeopardy associated with the risk they're taking and how they decide whether they can put their trust in you or not, because the risk is so much greater, and they may be making a decision that doesn't just affect them in buying your product, but maybe affects their boss or their organization. So there could be a whole range of sensitive issues that you need to be aware of. Sometimes just looking at what other competitors are doing, or what other clearing agencies are doing in other parts of the world that you admire, and how they are presenting themselves to potential non-consumers of their product, and how you can therefore seek to not copy, but seek to build on some of the best practices that they are following and bring those into your business model. Maybe also things you need to look at. Okay, so I'd encourage you to look at other business-to-business organizations that have similar, doesn't have to be the same, but similar issues that you face in selling the type of services that you are offering, and how they are seeking to overcome those challenges in the minds of their consumer. I mean, something that comes to mind for me is, you know, when a business wants to buy antivirus software for their organization, there's several out there. What is it that some antivirus software companies are doing better than others? And what is it that gives me as a consumer reassurance that if I put my faith in one organization and subscribe to one organization, then that's going to, you know, work for me? And maybe also it's looking at the business model and the pricing model, how you can minimize risk up front for an organization, how you can put in place certain guarantees for them, how you can maybe build upon the testimonials of those clients that you've had before. So here's what a customer felt before. You know, they felt the same as you did. And then what they did was they found out that by following this process, this was the result. So sometimes there's this feel, felt, found. You know, I understand how you're feeling because X organization felt exactly the same as you did. But, you know, what they found out was this, and this was the impact on their business. And if you, the more you perhaps can share testimonials from organizations or and other clients that you've had that have been successful and are repeat customers of yours, that may be other ways in which you can minimize the legitimate risks that they may have in their mind. Silence. Great.
Absolutely.
Does that mean no one can hear me?
Of course, we can hear you. Just we're listening to what you're saying.
Yeah, so you're a business-to-business organization. The risk is higher and the decision-making process is more rational than emotional. You know? Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, I do think, I mean, I can see that we've been joined by Professor Johann Füller, and I'm sure that he's been listening to the conversation, and he will have lots to share with you about how to deal with building trust around new technologies. He's an absolute expert at that. So did we have someone that was going to welcome him? Was it Fidenz?
Yes, we do. Johann, nice to see you.
Good to see you, Daryl. Hi. Hello, Deborah, all of you.
Welcome to our world. We're very much looking forward to listening to you. I know that me and Deborah are, and I know certainly that our young entrepreneurs are. And so, as is customary for these situations, we'd like Fidenz to make the address to Prof.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again, Professor Dr. Johann Füller. My name is Fidenz. I'm really happy and privileged to be the one introducing you. We are a group of business owners and entrepreneurs and pioneers in different sectors. We are from Rwanda, and we've been selected to be part of this program by Shibuka called Kwa Muganga, which is the real meaning is like a clinic. We've been very happy to have lots of experts coming, lined up by Daro, Deborah, and the team. And you're part of the people we've been, very privileged to meet. I would introduce you as a community innovation guru, if I'm not mistaken. And I would like you to bless us with whatever you've packaged for us today, and let us hear what you've for us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the nice intro, and thanks for attending. I hope you're all doing well. I'm also curious how the situation is in Rwanda, in Kigali. I don't know where you are all listening or taking from. I have to admit, I've been in Kigali last year, and that was the place where I met Daryl. actually per accident in the airplane, but it was a really mind-changing experience. So I'm very happy to be with you and to share my experience. And I would also like to benefit from a bit of an interaction together with you. So what I did is I prepared, of course, a couple of slides in order to go through, and maybe as I changed them in the last minute, Daryl, I will use my own, let's say, slides, my slide deck here. That means that you should give me the right just to, let's say, share my screen with the audience. If this is okay with you, then I would do that, because it's only minor changes, so it's fine if you distribute the one you have, but probably you know this kind of last minute things you have in your mind, and then you change some slide. So one question, can you see my presentation? I don't see any response yet. Question again, do you see or can I share?
I'm not sure how to.
I'm deactivated, so right now I'm not allowed to share my presentation.
Okay.
If you can activate me, that would be cool. If not, then we use the one I just sent you.
Right, so I've deactivated that one. I'm trying to, I can't see your screen.
No, you just have to give me the rights, and then I will
do I?
share my screen.
Oh dear.
Right now I don't have the, let's say, permission to share.
Okay, let me see how I do that. I haven't.
Or maybe you click on my profile and then you see certain activities, and then you say.
Okay, let's have a look. I can make you the host. How's that? Perfect.
Then I will.
All right, over to you. You're in control.
I will hijack this meeting now. It's dangerous, you know. Okay, but now it should work, right?
Yep, got it.
So my story for today is about how to innovate in the digital era. And why did I choose this topic? Because, of course, I'm aware that you are kind of experienced entrepreneurs. You had a lot of exercises, so I don't want to, let's say, just give you an overall overview, but maybe a new perspective on it, how technology, especially digitalization, affects, let's say, innovation, the speed of innovation, but also the way how we have to manage innovation. And what we're experiencing right now is just kind of a basic core technological disruptor with the internet, and especially with all this access to the data. You see, for example, how the speed of disruption, or let's say the speed of innovation, is accelerating. And it always refers to a certain backbone, like the steam or the electricity, or now this kind of, let's say, really hyper connectivity, and that the products and all this kind of gadgets and goods may become smart as well. Why is this the case? Because we just have the abundance of, let's say, computational power, and also the storage of data, and now everything can be connected. So this is, again, always, if there is this kind of disruption, it's a chance for new entrants. So it's also a chance for Africa, of course, because what it actually means that technology will disrupt the game, and it's not necessarily the previous incumbent who will win the game. So one of the theses I have in mind, or the kind of proposition for you, is that everything that can be digitalized will be digitalized at a certain perspective of time. Why? Because it's just so inexpensive to do it. And what we are experiencing right now due to the Corona and COVID pandemic is, of course, that even innovation management, or the way how we collaborate, or the way how we conduct workshops, once of a sudden, and what we experience a lot right now, how we teach. I mean, I'm from a university of Innsbruck, and it's about 350 years old university, and we always thought that this is the safe place, because it's a very, let's say, unique experience to learn and practice and to get together with the students, to enjoy the campus, to go out. But once of a sudden, if you're forced, even this kind of process of education gets digitized, and we see that there are a lot of, let's say, drawbacks, but on the other hand, there are also a kind of benefits. We can get together, you can have a lecture with me or with Daryl, and we are out home and it's safe. So once of a sudden, there is a new possibility. And as we experience it with the, let's say, education and with the teaching, we can see these possibilities for all kind of business processes. For example, if you give some assistance, if you have some, let's say, hospital and doctoral services, if you need some drugs from the pharmacy, or if you get some, let's say, tailor-made music lessons, you choose. And it's a big opportunity, but it's not only the services which I'm referring to it's the products. For example, this is a really easy one, this kind of shower head. Of course, I like showering, and I always like to shower with the same temperature. So I put my finger below the water and I just test if it's warm enough, not too cold. But if you would have a digital shower head, for example, it knows my temperature, and no matter where I'm going to, they will know, okay, Johann likes to shower at 39 degrees, and it will just tell me this is the temperature, you like it. But once you have a digitized, let's say, product, once you have the information, of course you can also get the information, how much waters do I consume, how much liters, and maybe it helps me to reduce the consumption of water, because I find out it's almost the same fun if I only consume, let's say, 20 liters of water compared to 30, which was my average consumption before. And once of a sudden, I have an additional benefit without any intentional, let's say, idea up front, because the idea was just that I get a nice temperature. So the hypothesis here is you can look at your environment and almost everything that, let's say, is physical right now may be gain a kind of physical digital layer. And of course, we are familiar that maybe it's not even the process and not only the product, but it's the whole and entire offering. Nowadays, if you look, I don't know if it's already quite distributed and popular, but all this kind of e-mobility, the sharing of scooters, bikes, cars, whatever, you have the app, or also the public transportation like the Flixbus. You just, let's say, have a huge platform where you book your mobility and you do the entire payment, etc. around it. So it's a huge potential, and probably you guys are also very IT related and you are kind of digital natives. I'm already an older guy, but for you it's normal. The point I want to make here, there is still a huge opportunity. And I give you a couple of further examples how it may change the experience. Here, for example, I have some pictures about skiing, of course. And if you ever come to Austria, that's one of the, let's say, big things to go skiing. And usually you just go ski, but now you have this kind of snow cookie on your ski, and you have a virtual training assistance just telling you how your skiing performance was and the angles and the speed, etc. And afterwards you can improve and work on your kind of skiing skills. Another thing is the processes I already mentioned, and of course a huge thing is agriculture, and nowadays it's about the precision farming. It's probably, you are aware of all these big trucks, but we need some, let's say, fertilizer, we still need some pesticides and some, let's say, chemicals, but in order to optimize it and to make it as healthy and as natural as possible, of course, it's much better if we can manage the kind of water, the irrigation, the fertilizer, and also the chemicals needed. Not just, hey, this is a huge field, but you can treat every plant almost, or any square meter, individually based on the consistency of the soil, based on the kind of grains you use, based on the weather, based on the machines, etc. And so what you can see here, it's not necessarily the machine, but it's the process, it's the way how we may really think about the agriculture. And I guess especially in Africa, there would be huge potential, because similarly, like all over the world, we are facing huge kind of problems, and digitalization may help to deal with these problems. As soon as we have the data, and as soon as we have this kind of real positions, we can come up with new solutions in this field. The business model here right now. Can you listen to the voice? To the yes. You should.
Yes. Yes.
So this is a company in Austria. Actually, they do hygienic dispensers. Touchless dispensers guarantee the highest possible hygiene. Via the internet, real-time information on the film level, so your dispensers is directly to your notebook, tablet, or smartphone. So the difference you may have seen is you don't sell these stupid dispensers anymore. You can offer that you provide a solution for hygienic. And of course, this is a complete different game. So it's not just about the product or the service. It's a new value proposition. And we all know, for example, how relevant and how important it is right now. Maybe not necessarily in the football stadium, but imagine at the hospitals, etc., that you can ensure that there are not too many bacteria or viruses, etc., and you can control the hygienic situation. So I can go on and on. Daryl, is there any question you have in mind? I just saw your video, your picture.
Yeah, no, it's interesting so far. I'd like to open it out, if I may, to our entrepreneurs, if they've got any questions that they'd like to ask Johann. I thought the farming one was a really great example of seeing how the value chain changes as a result of bringing digitization into the process. And we've talked a lot over the last few weeks about the value mapping and adding value through the value chain. But I was just wondering if anybody else has any questions they'd like to ask at this stage.
Don't be shy.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a question, but I suppose because I don't know if everyone else is in awe, but I simply was in awe with the ideas. I mean, as you describe it, they seem very sensible. I really do like that idea of the what was the one with the just before that whole dispenser. And it does seem that it's based on the value chain, collecting data, and then offering a completely different way of talking about your solution. So I think we're just absorbing what you're saying, quite frankly.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really interesting, and I mean, I have one last example, and then we may go into the discussion. How can we realize such, let's say, digital innovations, and maybe also what it takes? Of course, also what kind of problems or perspectives we have to take into account and consider here. And as you are entrepreneurs, I'm also an entrepreneur. Besides of running Hyve, we do some startups, and we also try to benefit from digitization. And what you see here is a startup from Hyve. It's called Icaros. And our idea was, or I have a colleague, his dream is to fly. And of course, it's not so easy. So what he wanted to create this kind of experience of flying. And nowadays, with virtual reality, another possibility of digital technology, you can actively experience the virtual environment and, let's say, fly over Rwanda, experience the national parks, see the gorillas by flying virtually. But to really immerse in this kind of augmented, or let's say purely virtual or real world, you yourself fly, and through your body movement, so this is a training device, and you can lean forward and backward and left and right and through all these kind of angles. But what you are doing, you are the joystick of managing the experience. And what you see here is the different experiences. So for example, there are some links for videos. I don't go through it, but you can fly over the Engadin, which is a nice mountain scenery in Switzerland, or there is a different device also, which is kind of more like running a motorcycle race or to have a flight competition in the space. And this is kind of mixing and providing new, let's say, I'm not sure, is it gaming or is it sports?
Experiences.
Or is it experiencing?
Yeah, a mixture of those, isn't it? Yeah. So I love this idea of, is Wilson there? Wilson, are you there? Do I have to unmute you?
He might just be listening.
Wilson, I mean, how do you feel about the fact that, you know, looking at so Wilson, you're running your tours company. Yeah. How do you feel about moving into the world of virtual tourism?
Yes, I had connection problems.
Oh, okay. So did you understand about this product and what this product is doing that Johann is developing? This is the ability to have a virtual 360-degree experience within your own home, within a space, without, you know, you can fly over the national parks and so on. Can you envisage the future of tourism like that, where people around the world can just experience Rwanda and its beauty? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now we do have Akagera Aviation, but it's somehow expensive.
Yeah.
But just from this session, from Professor, just I will learn a lot.
Good. I think what I love about this session, Johann, is, and just please continue, is this just opening our minds and our eyes to the possibilities and using our imagination to create really exciting new innovations through digital.
Sure.
Yes, and maybe to add on this point, if you see that the technology as enabler and you just do this kind of exercise in your mind, how this kind of technology would add or boost what you're already doing or putting it to the next level, so you can do it even systematically. For example, if you, Wilson, I don't know exactly what you are doing, so it would be nice to get a bit more about the details, but if you provide some, let's say, toys, maybe to combine the experience, I still like to have the physical, of course, experience, but maybe you can combine it with some digital instruction, or if you usually play on your own, that you can combine and you can create a community. Those are kind of possibilities. But now, just to also give you a glance what it means to innovate in the digital era, or if you innovate such holistic experiences like we are aiming for with the Icarus, it will also show you that you really need a kind of an ecosystem, or you need some partners, because you have, in the case of the Icarus, for example, you have the physical device. So you need some knowledge about mechanical engineering or electronics. You have all this kind of virtual reality, which creates this kind of experiences. But of course, it's a lot of software, it's content designers, it's experience designers, it's game designers, it's morphing it with the real world. So you need also this kind of pictures. At the end, it's not what the product or what the software is doing, but how you experiencing it. So maybe you even have the dream to have a league, or do you have this kind of arcade centers, or in the tourism industries that you provide hotels with this kind of possibilities, or you work on the inclusion for handicapped people, that you say, oh, you can't walk anymore, but we show you how beautiful Rwanda is. Maybe you can, there is a service component, of course, at the end. Maybe it's a nice device, but you can develop some trainings. It could be even kind of a physical therapy if you provide, for example, certain movements to strengthen your body. But of course, you may think about the business model, and as Wilson mentioned it, probably it's too expensive to sell this device to individual consumers, but maybe you rent it and it's just a 10 minutes ride, or you completely virtualize it. So what is the business model? Is it a subscription fee, or is it a product-based fee, or is it an update on software, or is it just the usage that you have some trainers, and those trainers sell their lessons, and they buy the products, and by having this kind of device, they have more expensive lessons? Or is it just that the big brands may say, wow, at the end it's huge advertisement for our existing products, and it's a for free model because it's paid and financed, for example, through the partners, that this is this kind of latest Red Bull, a possibility to provide and give links to their customers. So it's not so easy, but now let's talk a bit more about not what you can innovate, but how you may approach such digital services, products, etc. in this kind of new era. And here a more systematic picture, it requires to work on different layers and to consider different perspectives. Of course, it may be the product you are using, and it may be some additional service, but at the end, probably it's the overall experience which creates the value. And in order to have this kind of experience and create and derive the value, you have to align this kind of digital world with the physical world. And the connectivity is, let's say, the backbone of combining those two worlds. And that means that you need sensors with the physical world, and you also need data analytics, etc., for the virtual and digital world. And this is kind of a new kind of layer system. And if you want to, let's say, work on digital solutions, probably you may ask yourself, do we have the skills and the competencies? Whom do I need in my team? Is there a course? But also, what kind of sensors, what kind of data models are we going on? And
can I just ask, what do you mean by sensors there, Johann?
Sensors, of course, for example, if you have this, let's say, cup, and if you want to have a digital cup, the digital cup is this cup, is it empty or is it full? And if it's empty, it could automatically, for example, process an order and someone would fill it. So without a sensor, how should we find out that this is empty? I mean, this could be also the sensor, just a camera looking at your cup. And then you get the information, oh, this cup is empty. And with this kind of information we have, but the camera is also a sensor to find out what is this kind of state.
So Fidenz has a vegetable fruit grocery store, so you can buy his fruit and vegetables through online, and he will then deliver. So you're saying that once his certain park and pick container is empty of fruit and vegetables, that would alert him that it's time to restock that customer.
Exactly. Or let's go to the agriculture example. Once you measure the humidity of the soil, then you would see, now we need some more water or some nutrition or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
But your example was was a good visualization.
Thank you.
So can I ask, so essentially you're asking for data which moves the process on. You have to have the key data which will enable you to make a decision. Is decision-making data?
For example, I mean, data nowadays is very important. The question is for what we may use it, so this kind of use case, and then how do we get the data? Because very often you think, oh, data is around everywhere. But as you mentioned, Deborah, in this case, we would have, for example, sensors on the products to collect the data. But of course, if we're going back to the weather or to the agricultural example, then you may have the weather forecasts or you may have some measurement stations, so you already collect or use the data which is already collected somewhere else.
Thank you. Fidenz, did you have a question? I was talking about your product. I saw you pop up on my screen.
Exactly. I was ready to jump in case there was something I wanted to inquire, but it's clear now. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Any additional thoughts or comments on this kind of?
I would like to ask a question on behalf of you, Fidenz, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Please.
Johann, Fidenz, he basically collects food in a marketplace, and then he sells it on, and he finds that 40% of food is wasted because they don't have a process. And I'm curious, I mean, I'm describing it very broadly, and I suppose I'm inviting Fidenz. Could you talk a bit more about your processes and so that Johann could perhaps see what you might do to take on board these ideas?
Oh, yeah. The idea came with we realized that 70% of people in Rwanda in the active population live off farming activities. They're the poor or the poorest of the poor. And beyond that, whatever 5% of the kids under 5 are stunting. 38% of the kids under 5 are stunting. All these levels, and we are wasting 40% of agricultural production. These three figures should not happen in the same ecosystem. And the reason why we decided to go online and to start surveying how much of food is needed, how often is it needed, what volumes are we are talking about, is because we realize that it's the only way to capture the full measure of how the problem is. And today we happen to be able to deliver up to 286 products directly from vendors to households, and later this was in order to collect enough data about food consumption in households. But the objective is to go up the value chain immediately, to start engaging farmers, telling them the volumes, the standards, the expectations of the customers, and to make sure that we are putting more honesty and transparency in the value chains. And using these sensors, I don't know where to place these sensors, but I choose to place the sensors in my household's shelves. I wanted to be able to say, but we don't have that. I know my customers, and they all have these sensors installed all over, either in their fridges or their stocks. So whenever the stock has reached a certain level, I know I need to prompt them with an invoice or something that is calling them to order, for example. But that technology is not affordable, not for the people we are serving today. And is there any other way we can do it? We're still searching, pretty much. But we want to make sure that enough food is being produced in farms, the right quantities have been produced, the right quality is being shipped and is accessible in stalls, in markets, in grocery convenience stores. But also it becomes affordable, because we've not lost anything. It becomes affordable and it gets in people's plates, because we believe that food is a basic human need. And in a country that produces pretty much everything on earth, we can't afford to feed everyone. It can be fuzzy, but that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much for sharing your idea, Second. And it's indeed very important and very sad at the same time that we find out that a lot of the food production actually is thrown away or becomes waste. So there is a huge demand to solve this problem. I mean, maybe it's also too technological. What, instead of sensors, what other data collection possibilities do you have? Of course, it would be observation, that you are going around and just maybe feed a system and you see how much, let's say, overcapacity or how much stock is really become waste because it's not sold or not distributed. So you can do a lot of kind of manual checks, or you just provide some easy to use apps that, for example, they just enter the level of food they have in stock, or without asking them, you just ask them to send a picture of this kind of stock, and you use some algorithms to calculate the stock level based on the information and data you get from the picture. So that was a very good point. From using really high tech, there are many possibilities to gather the data, but the data in itself has no value unless then you can come up with a, let's say, forecasting or prediction model which helps to solve the problem, for example, of Second's problem, which may be that due to the model or predictions you can make, you can optimize some processes that less food is thrown away, or that it does not, let's say, get distributed from a logistical perspective to different orders. So once you can use this data for optimization, then we are in the game.
Yes, of course. I wanted to do this because I know what's needed. I know that like for the B2B especially, and we want to be able to disrupt the way they used to work, because the post-COVID requires us to be agilely adapting and very quickly moving towards more efficiency. And what I would suggest is, if I had enough money to invest, I would definitely put these small devices in every kitchen, in any restaurant or hotel or any facility, hospitality facility, letting them just chip in whenever you spend a kilo of this or that. And we set up a minimum stock. So at the minimum stock, I know exactly it comes in my database, I know that I should immediately bring them to stock, things to stock up. And beyond that, because I know how many people I'm helping to manage the stock, then I can immediately inform my farmers or my partner farms, go ahead and probably not produce, but crop, harvest exactly, not more, not less than what's needed. So we can send a truck of 6 tons instead of sending a truck of 12 tons. And we'll be earning into efficiency, not making sure that everyone in the value chain is earning from that information, making sure that enough food has been produced and is available, gets us to be confident about what should be shipped, and having the data to back up that, and it reduces the waste and the losses from the 40% to let's say 5% at most. And unless you are in this industry and you've mapped out all these leakages, you can't figure that out. But I need to invest more in order to start really gathering enough data for predictive analytics.
I mean, absolutely right. Thank you for this additional comment, and I wish you all the best for this kind of project, because of course this is not just let's say a nice to have consumption problem to be solved, but this is really essential and crucial one. So maybe if okay with you, I just go a bit further and we continue the discussion here.
Please do.
I just wanted to make you aware that there are, even it seems to be so natural, also what Segund just mentioned is there are different cycle times, and very often you have to consider this cycle time. So it takes much longer time, for example, to develop and launch a physical product than to prototype a service to offer a new way of restaurant experience, for example, here. And of course, ideally or on a conceptual level, you can update and provide software releases every day, every hour. We know it from the big vendors. I mean, I don't know, Amazon or Netflix or whatever you're using, they are changing their systems every time and they updated it and you get a new feature. So what is presented on the digital layer very often has to be considered on the product. So if you come up with a new, let's say, iPhone, or only a couple, or let's say 2 years or every 1 year, you still have to make it, let's say, smart enough that you can handle this kind of really short release cycles. And this is quite a challenge if you have to orchestrate and set up the innovation in a corporate context. So I don't know how familiar you are with orchestrating this kind of innovation in bigger organizations, but of course it's kind of a challenge, less problematic, I would say, for startups, mostly like you are in, but still it's good to be aware of it. And there is also, on the one hand side, if you add digital to your innovation portfolio, you may, on the one hand side, exploit your existing offering. I'm not sure if you are aware with the concept of ambidexterity, but actually it means that you almost have to be schizophrenic to, let's say, to run 2 different modes within the organization. On the one hand side, it's this kind of exploitation mode where you try to benefit from the existing solutions and incrementally, let's say, improve them in order to make money. Thank you, Daryl. You said, yes, you are, to make the money and to make it most efficient. So the goal you are aiming for is to make what you have already in place the most efficient. increase the productivity, lower the prices, and at the end, scale it, multiply it. So this is more or less this kind of exploitation game, offline versus online. Yes, you may have an established offline world, but then you enter a new, let's say, dimension, which would be the online world. You are less experienced, you don't have anything established, so it's more like the exploration game. It's not that you have to, let's say, really squeeze the efficiency. It's more like, oh gosh, how does online work? And we have to explore it. So sometimes I also have the metaphor for it. On the one hand side, it's kind of a race, and you want to get faster, and you want to do it, let's say, with less energy consumption or etc. So the dimensions are really well known. And on the other hand, you are a mountaineer, or you go on an expedition, and you really do not know what you will encounter. You just know that you want to explore this new online world or new data world. And in order to succeed in this world, it's important that you do kind of real fast experimentation, and you do some trial and error, and that you find your path through the jungle without knowing where, for example, the real solution is based. And this is also something we have to have in mind. Very hard and tough for our organization to have this kind of both-sided skills.
So if I can just pitch in there. So what we were planning to do originally was we would have been in Rwanda now to deliver physical workshops with our young entrepreneurs. We quickly had to pivot to the digital world, providing an online solution. And we are exploring, we're discovering as we're going around every mountain, around every hill, up and down, discovering what's working, what's going well, and how we can therefore put in place the system for the future. That's about exploration. Yeah. And I think the other thing I also want to bring in about Rwanda is, of course, it's an emergent development economy. So lots is talked about looking at market creating interventions, market creation innovations. So again, it's looking at this approach of saying, I've got my consumers already, but there are these non-consumers, and I need to explore what we can develop for the non-consumer as well as for the existing consumer.
Yeah, thank you, Daryl. You can also apply it, let's say, to different dimensions, the market dimension, or of course also to the, let's say, more like business development opportunities. What you always have to have in mind is, once you come up with a solution, that it's not just about, let's say, this desirability, that people like it and really want to have it, and it's not just about the feasibility, that it also can be realized on a technical level, but in addition, it also needs to be viable. That means that you should generate some value, and accrue value yourself, so you make money. And the sweet spot of innovation is, let's say, in the center here. It's not just, oh, this is feasible, it's not enough. Feasible, oh, it's not just people like it, it's not enough, and it's not just enough to have an idea which you can generate money. So the sweet spot of innovation is kind of in here. You have to fulfill the three options, and of course you can iterate all the way and can distinguish and split the tasks into those kind of three dimensions, and it becomes more complicated. You can ask yourself how data, if you refer it to the digital context, how data may help you to overcome or to improve, let's say, one of those options. That's something I just want to provide you in addition. And for example, you see a huge effect, and probably you're also, what you have seen, this kind of three things is derived from design thinking. Of course, you know that. Here you see, for example, how data may affect a business model. And what you see here is this kind of business model canvas that you can present every, let's say, business on a very easy way in this kind of building blocks in this canvas. And you see here, for example, the business model of Uber, probably you're familiar with, and you see how data may change, let's say, this business model. For example, what kind you offering to your customers, this kind of mobility ride where you are, and they forecast and predict how long it takes and depending whom you want to travel. But also it has huge impact what is really the core of this kind of business and with whom do they have to collaborate with and what is this kind of activity. So it's another, let's say, methodology which helps you to get a better overview what it would mean. For example, in case of Segon's idea, okay, if you want to overcome the problem of food waste, how should the business model look like, and how can maybe data help you to overcome this problem if you would, let's say, consider the perspective I want to bring in today.
Yeah. It's great because we presented our entrepreneurs very early on with the social business model canvas, which of course is very similar to a business model canvas, just with a few added extras. So this is really a great way of showing how data can play a role in articulating that business model. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, that's good that we're referring to it, as we did not discuss too much about what you already did. So it's good.
Yeah.
Data would be the intervention, and you can just analyze your, let's say, social or in this case normal business model, and to discuss and explore the impact. Yeah. And another thing is nowadays, of course, especially in startups, very often in the, let's say, corporate world, you do piece by piece and then you put it together and then you have, for example, the drawing. But in this kind of really fast change in digital world, you should already know from the beginning how the big picture may look like, but you iterate like the artists, the paintings, the Da Vinci is doing, that you really, let's say, have different layers, and you have to really be fast and be as efficient as possible to, let's say, consume the least resources. And what we see here is kind of, probably I already heard the term agile, you know about this build, measure, learn loops, and you break the activities down into, let's say, well-defined sprints. So probably if you are the entrepreneurs and you are always scarce of resources, here are a couple of tips. Always do the most, let's say, critical assumptions first. So it's a lot about priorities. You have to prioritize, for example, what's your most critical assumption in terms of feasibility, desirability, viability. Then probably once you know what is really critical to make it work, to make, for example, the food management work, then you can derive some hypotheses. Because to be honest, at the end, we cannot really be sure if we are right and if it works, or if they like it, or if it really gets sold at that level, or if you really create this impact. So nowadays we have a lot of possibilities. Before we really decide to go this avenue for a long way, we can test it. So after the prioritization, then we create our most critical assumptions, and we also design some tests. The tests could be, we build a small physical prototype to see if it's feasible, out of Lego, for example, or just out of some paper and pencil materials. Or we could engage a couple of potential customers via kind of an online HTML mock-up and just mimic if this is already okay, or we engage into, let's say, other activities regarding the business models. What is important is this kind of what Daryl just mentioned. If you get confirmation, you may stay, but most of the time you may gain a lot of insights from these little experiments, and you pivot if it's in case it does not really confirm your assumption, or you optimize in order to make it better. And the better or the most efficient and the fastest you are, the better you are as an entrepreneur. So if you can do this process faster, better, with the consumption of less resources, you have a competitive advantage because, of course, you can get better knowledge and push your solution further with less effort and less time and less resources. So it's easy, and it's really, let's say, a pragmatic kind of approach. Another thing is that you just be aware. I don't want to go into detail here too much. How do you organize this kind of process? With whom do you want to interact? What kind of methodologies do you apply? What is your time plan? Who is your, let's say, lab, or where are you based? Where do you work out from? And what we present here is kind of an innovation lab, an infrastructure, which just, let's say, you are this startup and entrepreneurial team, but you, for example, you are embedded, like here with Shibuka, you have some mentors, you may have guided programs through an incubator or a batch program where you really have this kind of structured process. But what is important that you also refer to your network, because 50% of success of a startup is the network. How can you mobilize the network in order to get, let's say, cheap, I wouldn't say cheap, but in order to get support in terms of labor, in terms of knowledge, in terms of access, and at the end also in terms of payments, because why should they trust you as a startup unless they really like you and they establish trust? And so the more they know about you and the more you interact with your potential customers and the better you meet their needs, then the higher the probability again.
That's a really interesting point, because David offers a business-to-business solution, which is a clearing agency to enable people to get their products into Rwanda. And so we were discussing before you came on board actually today, the issue of trust, and the issue of trust in a business-to-business situation. It can be quite different to obviously a business-consumer situation. And I'm talking on behalf of David, I'm sure he's listening in, is whether what you feel about how it is that business-to-business organizations, which are relying really on technical capabilities to enable people to enter into a market with services, how you think that can be overcome or trust can be achieved.
Yeah, I'm really curious, and thank you also, Deborah, for using the chat. Now I also opened it. It's cool to see, and I would be also curious to get some insights regarding the clearing agency, because I guess it's especially difficult, let's say, for foreigners to explore a market because you don't have any knowledge, first of all, and second, I mean, although we globalize more and more, there are still this kind of nice small differences, how you do business, how you behave, etc. So that would be really interesting.
Yeah. David, do you want to just quickly talk to Johann about your issue?
Yeah. Thank you, Johann, for the insight and for the information just shared. So my quick question goes to, I wanted to know from you, like, as Daryl said, thank you very much, Daryl, on saying on my behalf. I was saying, how do you get those people to trust you? I mean, you haven't had an opportunity to meet them. So, like, what do you do? Like, what do you work on so that people say that, okay, I might not be aware of that person. I'm not seen that person before, but I think it's really worth doing it. So I think most of the people are just afraid of doing all these things visually for the very first time. They haven't had any feeling or knows like the outcome, maybe the result of it. So yeah, maybe if you can share a little bit about that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for this one. It's a tough one. So how do you establish the relationship and how do you build this kind of trust? Of course, it requires some interaction, and really at the end you build trust if you experience a situation together and you see that a person works in the best interest, or you can rely on, let's say, mutual agreements. So that's something you build trust. But there are also, let's say, possibilities to establish trust via a third party. That's probably something you try to do. So if I don't have the direct relationship to some of your companies, but I know Daryl, and Daryl knows David, and I trust Daryl, and Daryl trusts David, and then we get together and I meet David in person and we have the communication, and then once of a sudden I trust David. And so this is something which of course we could call trust brokers or intermediaries, etc. And in order to increase their trust, of course, reputation matters. So if you already established a certain kind of brand, because branding is nothing else than a signal which allows me, oh, this ensures a certain quality, or this ensures a certain, let's say, function. So what this kind of signals, and it could be a brand, or it could be, of course, a contract. It allows me to reduce my risk. So it's a risk mitigation or a risk decreasing mechanism. And so, of course, besides of establishing one-to-one relationships, you can build up your reputation by creating a brand, by having logos, by having some references, and that's probably something.
Yeah. And that's what we talked about with Kevin Keller a few weeks ago, of course, the idea of building your brand and building a sustainable brand. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Johann, thank you very much. I guess I will start with Del and Deborah being my client and see how it goes.
Good luck. Good luck. Wilson, you have a question as well.
I love it.
Thank you.
Wilson, I know you had a question as well.
Yes, please. Good to be with you again. Welcome, Mr. Professor Dr. Johann, to be with us, and we are getting much from you. I'm from Rwanda. I'm in the tourism industry. I have like to hear that you've been in Rwanda before. Really, let me share with you a bit all about tourism in Rwanda. We have different tourism forms. We have adventure tourism, we have cultural tourism, we have ecotourism, we have religious tourism, etc. You know, Rwanda is a country of 1,000 hills. We do sometimes hiking activity. So, as we've been talking about digitalization, and I really want to hear from you. And I don't know if you have time to just experience some just activities here in Rwanda, but I hope so.
Yes,
I really want to hear from you. What can we do, like digitalize some activities in innovation way. I really want just advice from you, because as I said, currently we do have Akagera Aviation. We use it for visiting, visit Akagera or Volcano National Park or Nyungwe. So I wanted just advice or to hear from you on what you can digitalize so that we can come up with the innovation. Thank you very much, Professor.
So very interesting industry, and of course, I was lucky. I visited one of the national parks, and I also visited the mountain where the mountain gorillas are for 2 days. So it was really cool to see, and you are really privileged with this country. And by the way, I did not expect, so I was not well prepared what let's say Rwanda would offer me. So I was especially surprised and excited, because initially my main purpose was on a business one or on an educational one. So I just spent let's say 1 week, but it was amazing. So Wilson, how could you enhance the, let's say, the customer journey of tourism by virtualization? And of course, if you think about tourism, you would probably have 3 stages. It's before you go on the trip. So you have to explore, you have to get the information, you have to find the right guides, the right hotel, you have to plan the trip, you have to adjust your expectations towards the offering. And sometimes you still have a lot of difficulties to find it out. Of course, if you have a very good travel agent, he may help you, but travel agencies may also limit scale. So what of this kind of recommendation, creating a trip, providing a positive experience up to booking the flights, getting picked up, to really have this kind of seamless connectivity. Nowadays, if I go on vacation many times, I have a lot of breaks, and if not, if I don't have a, let's say, an entire fully developed offering, which I don't like personally. I like to have this kind of individualism, like you said, but on the other hand, I would like to have this kind of organization. So probably there is a lot. Then there is the experience itself. So I'm there, I'm going to the national park, I want to, let's say, keep the moments. Probably there is also a lot of activities you can think of how you can improve it. The main message here is, what are the problems you may encounter, but what is the problems the customers encounter, and how would virtualization help you? For example, now, probably the same in Africa, how many, let's say, you can provide additional transparency and information about the infection rate of COVID-19, but maybe also Ebola or the risk of malaria, or so that would be additional transparency. Or you can come up with another problem, which means a kind of a mobility. Now you can probably, especially for tourism, you could come up with a different one. I have a friend, for example, what he has now, he has a website, he's a travel, or he runs a travel agency, and now he created a website which is called We Design Trips. So We Design Trips is more or less an online, it's a new form of travel agency where you can get in contact with locals which really know the area. You can contact Wilson and Daryl, etc. And then they design depending on, now I know you, Johann, a bit better, and now I make you this kind of really individual offering. And this is just one very practical application of it that I get to know the people from Rwanda, like Wilson, David, whomever, before I even go there via this redesign trip. Could be done. But it's a tough one.
It's a tough one, particularly at the moment with very limited external tourism into Rwanda, well, none. But of course, now they're pivoting towards domestic tourism as well. So many communities in Rwanda are being hit, and Wilson needs to pivot quite quickly and agilely, as you said, to the new economic landscape. And
to be honest, it's still an awareness problem, because many Europeans think about Africa as Africa, but there's so much diversity, and it's unbelievable. And so it's a lot about awareness, it's a lot about safety, it's a lot about education in order to increase and attract people. And maybe it's not, you can avoid the mistakes maybe some other tourism destinations have done, and how you can create, and maybe how you can invent a new form of tourism, which is still relaxation, enjoyment, new impressions, but it's maybe also contributing to a greater good or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
more sustainable as well. Yeah.
Sustainability, big topic.
Yeah, big topic. Thank you so much. I know you're going to move on to the next slide. I'm conscious of time, so how much longer have we got?
Maybe Darrell.
Yes, Wilson.
Maybe
sorry.
Darrell. Just I want to tell Professor Johann that we do have now. We are just improving. We are doing something big. Now we do have what we call guiding process. We do have. We do make sure that our guests or our tourists are well communicated, all about pre-briefing, briefing on arrival, good interpretation, and debriefing. Next time we will be having very good experience. I promise you.
And I'm sure Johann, when he comes back to Rwanda, he will experience your hospitality.
Sure.
Thank you very much. So
we'll be happy to host you very soon. Yeah, go ahead.
Darrell, thank you for reminding me of the time. Probably you guys are tired. I mean, I already came across with most of my points, and if some of you afterwards has additional questions regarding some of the slides, I'm more than happy to share it with you. Maybe just to summarize, I had additional blogs. One was about another perspective on how you really find out what your customer wants. So this kind of customer centricity, how you can create a customer journey in order to better understand the problems you may solve, but also the exciters you may come up with in order to make it even more compelling as it was before. So this is maybe something, Wilson, you may have a look on it, and there are different opportunities how to create this kind of journey. And the last one was, which is especially something I see two things, was about crowdsourcing, because many times maybe the ones who have a solution to the problem are not around it.
Yes.
Are not around it by them. So how can you tap into the knowledge? And this is something, on the one hand side, it's a really inexpensive help nowadays with the internet to do kind of an idea contest or just an open call on the internet. Who has an idea, like Wilson was asking me regarding the tourism? You could, for example, even in this course, you could run a challenge, and I was just I'm just one person, right? But outside, I'm guessing that there are hundreds and thousands who experienced Rwanda, who came up with some ideas. And so that would be another nice possibility to use it. And actually, it's also a tool we provide right now. Maybe there you may even think to apply it within your course. But it has an additional meaning for Rwanda. I don't know Rwanda very well, But of course, I'm aware of the tragic history a bit, and I know that Paul Kigame, he also had this kind of community day. And I mean, with the community, I think it would also fantastically fit to this one, because of course, community can be interpreted as creating a common sense and creating common understanding, but it can even go a step further and say, let's together create a prosperous common future, and let's include and engage not only the smartest, the elites into this kind of way of thinking, but to open it up more to create a movement and to really, and that's something I would have liked to share. But maybe it's also another lecture or a session you do.
Yeah, I like it. It's about creating a virtual community, and there is, as you said, Muganga, which is the last Saturday of every month, this physical community gathering, and maybe there is a way to transfer that idea into the digital world as well. So that would be something which we'd love to explore in the future.
So this is like this kind of, for example, the platform, and of course it also runs in English, and you just, if you have a question, you just set up this kind of challenge. Right now we have a lot of challenges related to Corona, biodiversity, or how to ensure safe and enjoyable tourism in times of Corona, and you just create this kind of open call. And of course I did it, for example, with my students from Innsbruck. We had some fantastic things. Maybe you think about it, what it would mean for the kind of concept of the community in Rwanda. So, but that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Johann. That was a fantastic exploration. I'm sure, let me just, before you go, I think, Deborah, do you just want to say something?
No, you have no idea how excited. Such a pleasure. You brought those slides alive. You know, and your just very tempered way of bringing each of those slides alive. I really appreciated that, and all those stories, as I said, just brought it all alive. So that's really what I want to say. Thank you ever so much for bringing it all alive, and it just seems doable now. And I don't know what other people say, and it would be nice to find out what other people feel. David, Fidenz, Christelle, Wilson, but I certainly felt like you helped me to see. You helped me to see, and that's what I'm walking away with. But Wilson, Christelle, David, Fidenz.
Thank you very much. I was a bit off because of the different technology problems, but I was so amazed to see how easy, how simpler has put things, displayed things, and I'm always amazed how I can pick one thing and get it relevant to what we are doing today. And I'm into these community crowdsourcing solutions, and making sure that I'm not doing it for the sake of doing it from my own head, and having it structured, scientifically proven, and it helps me a lot. So I would like to still, I'm grateful for that, and
Thank you.
I would like to get back to you whenever happens and what comes out, and keeps on feeding your thank you.
Thank you. David, Christelle, because I know Fidenz, if he's still there, is going to say some final words.
Hello, this is Christelle. So I just liked how simpler, like Fidenz said, it was so simple to understand, and like Deborah said, it really came to life, and it seems so possible to do it. Thank you very much, Dr. Johann.
Thanks, Christelle. Thank you.
David? Fidenz, are you still there? Fident?
I am still there. Yes.
Yes, sir. Do you want to say the final words?
On behalf of the team, okay, on behalf of the entire team and the entire cohort of Shibuka.
Yeah, go ahead. I think we lost you. Oh no, it was going to get to the...
I would like to say thanks to contributing impact. And I would like to let you know that we will not disappoint. We definitely be fueling your set of examples as we give you back the feedback of what we've experienced, of what you've suggested. Thank you very much for being here for us, and looking forward to great stuff. We'll be listening, hearing from us, and hopefully you'll be amazed to see what you've done, of what you've contributed. Thank you very much for the team that's organizing, and thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
So thanks to all of you. It was a pleasure to meet you. Next time maybe in person. All the best for the future. Keep on rocking and create this kind of prosperous new view on that. Daryl, Deborah, thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure. We'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Mawakosi. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great. Thank you so much. As we say goodbye to Johann, it was so nice to have him with us. I can see he's still there. He's left us now. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. Does anybody want to say some final thoughts?
I can just say that Johann is an excellent teacher. Best one for me.
He's definitely got a very easy style, hasn't he?
I know. It's so easy to understand everything. You can't easily be distracted during his session. He's really amazing.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but initially you could be intimidated by digitization, but he made it seem so doable and practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody. There's lots to obviously digest and think about. Again, I hope that helped all of you. It was great to have him join us today. And as you say, he did bring those slides alive. And of course, we will share those with you. And what did you think about the idea about the crowdsourcing? We didn't get into it as much as I know he wanted to, but the idea of creating that, doing something together, a vision for the future.
I'm personally fond of the crowdsourcing thing, because it not only gives me an impression that, but also making sure that I'm not the only one crazy enough to think that something is possible, is attainable, and getting all these energies around me gets it more exciting. So yeah, I mean, I've already bought out that idea. So yeah, I'm already sold.
Okay. Well, I think it's onwards and upwards then. I think from us, time to reflect, absorb, and move on. And obviously, I'll be sending out the link to the Padlet for you to say your personal thanks to Johann as well. Unless there's anything else you want to add, Deborah, I think that's it for today.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing. So well done, everyone, and see you next time.
See you next time, and keep in touch. Have a good week. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.